Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Every now and then I meet somebody and they say, "Oh, you've got a YouTube channel. What's it about?" And I say, "Oh, I'm a lawyer, so I talk about legal stuff in the news." They go, "Oh, okay. And, legal stuff in the news is usually people who got in legal trouble or court cases, things of that nature. But there's a story here that broke a couple days ago that's more about history, but it has a connection to the law. And I find this fascinating. This was sent to me by a lot of people and also appeared in many different news outlets. But Harvard's law school has a copy of the Magna Carta, which it turns out is an original. And the distinction between those two things is huge. An original is worth a lot of money. A copy made a long time ago might be worth some money, but not this kind of money. So I got this story straight from Harvard's own website. British researchers have discovered that a copy of the Magna Carta owned by Harvard Law School is in fact an extraordinarily rare original from 1300. It's a long time ago. The discovery by a leading Magna Carta expert at King's College London and the University of East Anglia, because a couple experts looked at this, means the document is just one of 7 from King Edward I's issue of the Magna Carta from 1300 that still survive. And so the law school got this in the 1940s. There's a whole story there too. And of course, the Magna Carta, which means Great Charter, is considered a key step in the evolution of human rights against oppressive rulers, and has formed the basis or inspiration for constitutions around the world, influential in the founding of the United States, from the Declaration of Independence to the framing of the U.S. Constitution, and of course the Bill of Rights. Harvard Law School bought the document in 1946 for $27.50. $27.50. The auction catalog described the manuscript as a copy made in 1327, and it described some damage because they thought it looked like it wasn't in the best condition. It had been purchased a month earlier or so by a London book dealer via Sotheby's from a Royal Air Force war hero for £42. So somehow it went to auction, didn't do too well. I don't know what the conversion rate from dollars to pound sterling is from back in 1946 or 45, whenever these things happened. But a professor of medieval history at King's College London describes this document as a remarkable testament to a fundamental stage in England's political development and one of the world's most valuable documents. It's a fantastic discovery. It deserves celebration, referring to one that Harvard's got, not as a mere copy, but as an original of one of the most significant documents in world constitutional history, a cornerstone of freedom's past, present, and yet to be won. Now, the professor was studying unofficial copies of the Magna Carta when he came across a digitized version of the one at Harvard, and he realized it might be an original. So he began to compare it to other originals, and he teamed up with a professor from the University of East Anglia, and they began investigating the provenance. And one of the professors described the Magna Carta as a totem of liberty, central to our sense of who we are, a freedom-loving, free-born people. It's an icon of both the Western political tradition and of constitutional law. If you ask anybody what the most famous single document in the history of the world is, they would probably name the Magna Carta. The provenance of this document is fantastic. They have no doubt that it's real. And while there are deep benefits to the digital revolution, a physical artifact like this one offers a special and profound reminder of the ways in which the rule of law and the societies and people it serves has and fits and starts grown and strengthened over a span of centuries. So Harvard is, of course, now excited because they go, hey, we got this thing we picked up for $27.50, and it's worth quite a lot of money. These things don't change hands often. They know where many of them are, but there still could be one or two more out there floating around. But in establishing the authenticity of this one, the two professors noticed that its dimensions are consistent with those found in the 6 previously known originals, as is the handwriting, because it's handwritten by somebody. It's got a large capital E at the start in Eduardus and the elongated letters in the first line. They also collated the 7 previous originals with one another and discovered that a new text of Magna Carta had been prepared, with the clerks being given strict instructions to stick to it. This set a high bar for this one because if its text varied from the authorized version, it would not be genuine. Using images obtained by Harvard Law School librarians via ultraviolet light and spectral imaging, the professors discovered that this document passed the test with flying colors, with its text matching up perfectly with that in the other originals. This uniformity provides new evidence for Magna Carta's status in the eyes of contemporaries. The text had to be correct. So they're saying now that this document could be a lost Magna Carta, once issued to the former parliamentary borough of Appleby in Westmoreland, England. And so they've now looked into the history of this document. The manuscript was sent to auction in 1945 by a First World War flying ace, and it emerges that he had inherited archives from 2 other people. In the early 1800s, one of them had retired to the English Lake District, where he became a friend of the English poet William Wordsworth and of local landowner who was a hereditary lord of the manor of Appleby. So what we have here is a document. And of course, we have the Constitution. And you want to go see the Constitution, the original. It is on display in Washington, D.C. And it's given a place of great prominence, and it's a big deal. But the Magna Carta, which came out a few hundred years before that, interestingly, when it came out, word didn't travel as fast as it does today. So one of the things they did is they made several copies of the original. So they refer to these as the originals. And they made several of these documents. And I believe they're all signed by the king. And in case you don't know, what was going on before this was the king ruled, and the king got to do kingly things. And that's just the way things were. Well, what rules does the king live by? Well, he's the king. How do we know he's the king? I didn't vote for him. No. So the king did what kings do. And there came a time, and I'm not going to get heavily into this, but there came a time when the king actually needed help from some of the people in his kingdom who had money, among other things. I'm simplifying. Forgive me, all my friends in England. Please forgive me. But there came a time when the king needed help. And so he spoke to a group of the people that could help him. And they said, well, tell you what, we'll help you. But we want you to do something for us. We need you to sign this document. And the document is going to say, in essence, that you, the king, and the position you're in, actually do, on some level, answer to us, in that you are not above the law. You don't get to just do what you want to do. And we're going to enumerate a bunch of rights that we have. You're king, but we have rights. And we're going to put it on this great charter. And you're going to sign it. And we're going to sign it. And then we'll help you. That's pretty much what happened. And he signed it. And that became a big deal. Because how else would you get the king, who has absolute power, to apparently relinquish some of that? And now we don't think of it as a big deal that we have these rights, because we've had them our entire lives. And so did our parents and grandparents, and they go way back. These rights, we just assume we've got them because we've always had them. But actually, our rights in the U.S., on paper, Constitution and the Bill of Rights. But elsewhere, the Magna Carta. That goes way back. And so it took a little while for word to get out simply that this document even existed, because like it wasn't on the nightly news or on the internet just yet. And so they made a bunch of copies of it, because one reason you do that is in those days, what happens if you only had one copy and the king will keep it for safekeeping? No, you don't want the king hanging out to your copy. He doesn't want the people helping him who talked him into signing this thing to have the only copy. They make a bunch of copies and they distribute the copies around. And the fact that so many have survived is remarkable. And it is really cool they found another one. And I'm curious to know what they'll do with it. I understand, I read a whole bunch of these articles. I believe what they're probably going to do is simply do it so they can do it safely, but display it and let people see it. And it's pretty cool. So Harvard Law School's copy of the Magna Carta they bought for $27.50 back in 1946 turns out to be real. And I believe that easily puts it into the same category as like a Van Gogh in terms of how much money it could realize if it was sold at auction. But I suspect they won't do that, because Harvard Law School is probably the premier law school in the U.S. And so they probably think, hey, this is something we should hang on to, since we do have an actual original of it now, not just a copy. So everybody who sent it, thanks a lot. That's from Harvard's own website. Harvard Law School's copy of the Magna Carta revealed to be an original. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Relax. Nothing is under control.